If you're asking me, is Mr. Trump the kind of person who sometimes will make his decisions based on emotional conditions, on vendettas, on grudges, on that type of thing, non-scientific thinking? Yes, yes, of course he is. I mean, would I be surprised if we found out down the line that somehow he felt personally insulted by the fact that uh, Mr. Modi didn't hail him as the savior of the Pakistan uh, and India conflict? And as a result of that, he was kind of holding it against him, and that's maybe why he's throwing this out. I obviously don't know, neither do you, neither does anybody else. Does it fit the way Mr. Trump has kind of carried out some of these policies? Yeah, China can punish the United States and is punishing the United States. It's already dumped 300 billion US treasuries. So it's doing its part to devalue the US dollar. The US dollar is at a 27-year low. Is it a Machiavellian play on the part of Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi? They want to send a message to the world and specifically to Donald Trump. Look what you're doing. You're creating this union. This union's bigger than you from every measure out there. Be careful who you mess with, because the bigger you make us, the smaller you make yourself. Is that the message they're trying to send? And is that just a Machiavellian play? Perhaps. Or does it go further? And are these guys actually going to sit down to business and say, okay, it's time to go after the big guy? How do we do this?
Over here in New Delhi, it seems like the means to achieve this goal of President Trump means he's essentially cratered a decades-old relationship with India, right? It was always on the up and up. Now, there was a report by Jeffries that is added another dimension now to this, and says that a lot of President Trump's tariffs and actions and the provocative statements that are coming against India is more like his personal peak. The fact that he wasn't allowed to play a mediation role in the India-Pakistan sort of almost like a de facto war that we were in just a few months ago. So the fact that India will not accept third-party mediation in any way with this conflict with Pakistan, are those personality politics also being seen over here?
Well, look, if you're asking me, is Mr. Trump the kind of person who sometimes will make his decisions based on emotional conditions, on vendettas, on grudges, on that type of thing, non-scientific thinking? Yes, yes, of course he is. I mean, one of the things that I begrudge for many American leaders today, and I think it's worse today than it's been in the past, is a failure to want to understand the genesis, the history, the culture, and the conditions of any problem. Their reaction is often based on what they saw on cable news. Mr. Trump will watch Fox News and see somebody say something and say, yeah, that's right. Boom, let me do that. And that's no way to make your decisions. Once again, it's just a very haphazard way to do it. And no, so if you're asking me, would I be surprised if we found out down the line that somehow he felt personally insulted by the fact that Mr. Modi didn't hail him as the savior of the Pakistan and India conflict? And as a result of that, he was kind of holding it against him, and that's maybe why he's throwing this out. I obviously don't know, neither do you, neither does anybody else. Does it fit the way Mr. Trump has kind of carried out some of these policies? Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. And it's not good.
Yeah, no, let me go in a bit more on this. You see, we saw a few weeks ago all those European leaders line up and sit across him, across the Resolute desk in the office. Do you think leaders like a Xi Jinping or a PM Modi or a Vladimir Putin would also do something similar over there? Because we've seen him warming up to Europe as well now after that.
He's trying to play both sides against the middle. That's what he's doing. He he'll slap down the EU and then he invites them to the White House. You know, he slaps down Putin, then he has conversations with him. He obviously doesn't like Zelensky. You can tell when Trump really doesn't like somebody, he does not like Zelensky, and yet he has to. He acts as if he's willing to make him an equal partner in all of the negotiations. So I think some of that comes from people who are in his ear, like you mentioned, Lindsey Graham, who make him go there. And one of the problems we have with the United States right now, and one of the problems the United States has is, in the end, you are how you act, right? You may tell me you're the greatest guy in the world, and you may be, but I'm going to judge you based on your actions, right? How do you behave? How do you treat your wife? How do you treat your children? How do you treat your mother and your father? That's what tells me whether you're a decent human being or not. Um, and the United States right now has a very serious problem with Gaza. The whole world sees that. And whether they're looking at, forget India, forget Russia, forget Ukraine, forget everything. They're looking at that and they're saying, you guys, you guys who are backing the extermination of a race of people
Yeah.
and funding it and defending it, you're going to go around the world telling other countries what to do. I mean, it's such a horrible starting place right now for the United States, and it really it really undercuts the underpinnings of what the United States has always stood for. So we as Americans look at that, and whether you're on the right or on the left, you look at it critically, and you know that the whole world is looking at it that way too. So it's kind of it's a real stain on the United States right now, and that undercuts Mr. Trump's tariffs and sanctions and all these castigatory measures that he's putting on the world in the end, because I think that gives the guys like Modi and others the opportunity to say, in the past, I may have said, okay, let's work this out. But based on your recent record, I'm just going to say, nah, I'm not interested. Don't tell me what to do.
What about Trump's attitude with China? China is a huge importer of Russian oil as well, and they've sort of escaped those secondary tariffs.
Because we owe them our country. China, I mean, China has loaned us so much that our economy is based on everything China does, not just in terms of the products that 90% of the products in any Walmart, which is where America shops, from comes from China. The rest may come from Vietnam and parts of Malaysia, et cetera. But in the end, they make the products and they loan us the money to fight the wars that we then fight in, to be able to keep our production base, which is the only one we seem to have these days, which is the weapons productions going. So it's a very cyclical and weird arrangement where the United States knows that it can't be too harsh on China, because if it rips China up, it rips itself up. It's kind of like a double suicide. And I think Mr. Trump knows that. Part of the story here is that China can punish the United States and is punishing the United States. It's already dumped 300 billion US treasuries. So it's doing its part to devalue the US dollar. The US dollar is at a 27-year low, and China is capable of doing it. And if that's the reason I'm here. I'm here in Beijing. I just got here. I'm going to be covering this Shanghai summit. I mean, think of what happens if Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi and Mr. Putin and several other Asian Pacific leaders come together and say, it's time for us to do just that. Focus on de-dollarization, because that's how you actually win the war, not with weapons. And some of that is already taking place. And yes, I think Mr. Trump understands that. And I think that's why he's a little bit more hands off on China. because they hold so many U.S. treasuries, and if they dump them, they can really damage the U.S. economy.
I'm glad that you brought up the upcoming visit. Of how do you see PM Modi's visit to China? It's happening after 7 years, and he'll be meeting Xi Jinping in Tianjin. And how do you see that? How do you see those visuals play out?
I'm fascinated by it. I'm here because and we've got our crews here, and we're going 100% with the coverage of this story. We think this is a transformational story. We think it's truly and it's all because of Modi. Otherwise, Mr. Putin and Mr. Xi are getting together. Okay, that's not a big news story. It's worth covering, but it's not as big a news story. When Modi made that decision, and I think you guys know the story perhaps better than I do because it's in your backyard. But my sense is that Modi didn't make the full commitment to come here to start this economic embrace, if you will, with the Chinese until after he felt disrespected, or the Chinese government felt, not just about Modi. The Indian government felt disrespected to the point where they started thinking, you know what? Maybe it's time to look to China. Maybe it's time to start developing this relationship that we've had with China. Not that it was ever a bad relationship, but it wasn't an ideal relationship. It wasn't a full embrace. It was just kind of like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
And I think what's happening now is you're seeing them, and I don't know if it's a Machiavellian play. It might be. This is what we're going to find out this week. Is it a Machiavellian play on the part of Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi? They want to send a message to the world, and specifically to Donald Trump. Look what you're doing. You're creating this union. This union's bigger than you from every measure out there. Be careful who you mess with, because the bigger you make us, the smaller you make yourself. Is that the message they're trying to send? And is that just a Machiavellian play? Perhaps. Or does it go further? And are these guys actually going to sit down to business and say, okay, it's time to go after the big guy. How do we do this? And we probably have to do it economically. And I think that might be part of the discussion. So we'll see what comes out of this.